Most people think that healing their trauma is a straight line from A to B, where they are now to where they want to be. And they feel like once they get there, and it'll be quite straightforward, they'll feel lighter, freer, and like a brand new person. But unfortunately, that just simply isn't the case. Because what nobody tells you, what nobody seems to talk about, is that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about unlearning all the adaptive strategies that you've picked up along the way. It was about unlearning that version of you that was built to survive, the version of you that always said yes when you wanted to say no, the version of you that smiled when you wanted to cry, and that version of you that would always keep the peace at the cost of who you are, at the cost of your authenticity. And when you do start letting go, when you do start peeling back the layers of those onions, you don't feel free. You start to feel disorientated because that part of you feels lost. You start questioning, well, who am I now without all of this stuff, without all of this protective armor? And that's why healing is so hard, because it's really painful and disorientating. But if you're in that space now, that fog, are you questioning whether you should be doing it, whether you're doing the right thing, whether it's all worth it, then I'm here to tell you it's painful, it's tricky, but it's absolutely worth it. Have you ever felt like you're healing, but you're actually feeling worse? Like you've let go of the old you, but you have no idea who's left. And like you're grieving something, but you're not quite sure what. Well, that space, that fog, that emptiness, that confusion, that's not that you're doing it wrong. This isn't a bad thing. It's just the part of healing, the part of trauma that nobody talks about. It's the dismantling of ourself, of the present person that we believe we are, before we can put it all back together and remember who we were. So I've been on my healing journey now for about 15 years, and for the last 10 years I've been working on my own trauma and helping others through theirs. Now, I started 15 years ago. I stumbled across a book called Fuck It, The Ultimate Spiritual Way by John C. Parkin. And that got me deeply into, obsessively almost, into meditation and mindfulness, which really, I felt, transformed who I was. But it wasn't until I stopped doing it that I realized just how broken that I felt. I still had all the triggers, I still had all the challenges in life. I was still single because I was so bad at relationships. I still felt crippled by shyness. Although part of me was more at peace, there was more quiet in my world, I still felt like I was broken. So I thought that the meditation and the mindfulness was the answer, but that was just almost the top layer of the onion. I'd peeled that away and it gave me space. It gave me a peek and insight into what was really possible. And then a few years later, back in 2017, something like that, I met John C. Parkin, the author of Fuck It, The Ultimate Spiritual Way. I met his wife, Gaia Pellini, and she introduced me to what I now know to be developmental trauma. And that's what I've been healing and training in for the last several years. And that was the big aha moment. All of a sudden, I knew what this identity was. I knew where my overthinking, my people pleasing, my inability to function as an individual in a relationship came from. And once I started looking at that, I thought, yeah, I've got this. This is going to be easy. This is going to change my life. And it did. But it's been extremely painful, eye-opening, beautiful, but painful. Because as I started working through my stuff, a big part of it was I'd built up this. So I'm quite introverted by my nature, but because, as we know, if you're an introvert, oh no, that's not okay. I developed this persona, this personality through alcohol. So I was a big binge drinker and I'd go out and get blind drunk every weekend. I'd be the crazy party boy that everybody loved most of the time. But as I started healing my trauma, I realized as I started to become more comfortable and understand who I was, that part of me started to fall away. And all of a sudden, I didn't want to go out drinking and be party boy anymore, but my friends group and everyone else, that's what they expected. That's who they were. And all of a sudden I felt my people pleasing kicked in because then I was like, well, I don't want to go out and get drunk, but my friends want me to, and that's what they expect. So I was at a clash between who I was and who I was becoming. And that's extremely disorientating. It's extremely painful. It throws up so much. And as these things change, as the old adaptive parts of you fall away, it's almost like when you've got a wound and you take off the scab, but it's not quite ready to heal, and you poke at it. That armor, that protective scab is coming away, but what's underneath is still quite raw, it's still quite new, it's still quite painful, and there are new triggers there as well. So it's not like it just comes off and everything's wonderful. So if you're in that space now, let me know in the comments below if you're on your healing journey, but you're struggling because you're changing, your life's changing. What you want from life isn't what you've got from life. Maybe you want a career change, a relationship change, a change of your friends. Maybe like me, you're battling with your parents at the moment, and that's a big issue. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But healing often brings more grief with it in the first instance than it does growth. I think on the internet, all the advice and information out there, especially stuff that puts the brain, the mind as the primary tool of healing, suggests that, we just have to keep at it. We just have to keep practicing, and then it just happens overnight. But that really isn't true, especially from a developmental trauma standpoint, because what we're really doing, we're grieving for a life, we're grieving for environmental failings that happened to us when we were young, when we were children, when we weren't able to say this isn't okay for us, we want something different, we need more, we need to be seen, we need to be heard, we need to be loved. Whatever it is that was lacking, that's what we need. You have to grieve for that. You have to meet that where it was, where it is, where it was missing, before you can really heal from that. And that's really painful, because you will have spent your entire adult life, 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years, suppressing that pain, pushing it down. It's actually, I didn't have a bad upbringing, I haven't got a bad life. But when you stop, if that's really true, then what is happening for you? Why do you feel like you're not enough? Why do you feel like you're not okay? Why do you feel like you're broken? So all those parts that do feel that way are just adaptive. And it's decades of trauma, and you can't just rip the band-aid off that. You can't. You have to peek underneath and look at it gently. And once you start to look at it, you start to allow all of those suppressed emotions, the trauma that we literally store in our bodies, in our nervous systems, suddenly feels safe to be seen, not judged, to be seen, to be allowed to be expressed. And that is painful. That is difficult. That is raw. And sometimes, even now with my teacher Gaia, I have, as part of my training, an hour's therapy session, which is wonderful. I'm so glad. A month. And even now, stuff comes up for me, and you think, I thought I dealt with that. I thought that was gone. But it is like that onion. You've just peeled layers. And I'm not, if I'm honest now, what I will say, there are no quick fixes. I'm not convinced that we're ever done. Again, from a developmental trauma standpoint, it's always fascinating what comes up. So it's brilliant doing the work. But I'm not sure the work is ever done. And I know if you're watching that, you don't want to hear it, probably, because again, we're promised quick fixes. 5-second rule, a few cold showers, a bit of meditation and mindfulness will cure everything. And it does make you feel better, but it doesn't. There's no longevity in it. There's no longevity in it. So we have to go to those dark places that we've never been before. We have to peek. We have to take a look. And it's scary. And we have to meet that fear. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, it's not point A to point B. That isn't the path to healing. It's all over the place. You'll go from A to D to C to E to L to M to Q, back to C, back to D, and just stuff starts falling apart. Stuff starts falling away. The things that you wanted are no longer the things that you want. The person that you thought you were is no longer the person that you thought you were. And you start to go out into the world and you present this new person. It's almost like a rebirth in your work, with your friends, with your family. And some people are wonderful. They're amazing. They accept it. They embrace it. Even if you don't overtly talk about it, other people don't like it because they don't like change. They start to talk about you. They start to ask what's happening. And it can be exceptionally lonely. But what's more lonely? What's more difficult? Abandoning who you truly are to please everyone else, or being who you truly are, being authentic with that and saying, this is who I am, and turning up in the world as that. But being completely honest, the healing journey is extremely difficult. As I said, I'm a decade into this journey and I've had some really difficult, challenging, heartbreaking, floods of tears moments, but I've had some incredible, beautiful moments. I was single for 10 years and I've been with my beautiful partner now for 6, 7, and that wouldn't have happened had I have not worked through my trauma, had I have not stuck to it, even though I questioned it, wondered if I was doing the right thing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely worth it. And if this has been useful, then check out this video next where I go into a bit more detail around developmental trauma. Have a beautiful day. Big love, John.